What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my labor and delivery story. When I was pregnant, I saw a lot of these videos, whether it's about induction or just about labor and delivery in general, how the contractions felt, everything like that. So I thought it would be cool to come and film my own video about my own experience now that I'm on the other side. I guess I'll start with at my last doctor's appointment. I dilated 3 centimeters, and my OB wanted to go ahead and induce me at 39 weeks. So my last appointment, I was 39 weeks. And so I was scheduled for November 20th at 4:30 a.m. So that morning, me, my husband, and my sister, we all got up. We went to the hospital, and when I walked in, I had no type of nerves about it. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I was just kind of like, I knew this was something that I had to do. It was something that had to be done. She had to come out. So I just went ahead, and when I walked in, it's like the nurses all knew I was there. And they were like, yay, induction. And I was just like, okay. So they had me sign some papers, and I went into the room. Now, one tip I do have is, if you are going to be induced, make sure you eat before you get to the hospital. Someone was supposed to call me and let me know to eat before I got there, but no one did. And when the nurse called my doctor, she said no. At that point, she did not want me to eat anything, which I understood, because it could have been very harmful for me and the baby if things would have went left and I would have had to have an emergency C-section. So she didn't want me to eat at all. And so I went in the room and I met my nurse, and the doctor wanted me started on Pitocin immediately. And if you don't know, Pitocin is a medicine that they give you to jumpstart your contractions. Now, I always hear that Pitocin makes contractions worse. I don't know if they do, because I've never had contractions without Pitocin. However, I will say that when I was starting on the Pitocin, I was started at a very low dose, of course, and the contractions weren't bad at all. They were like very, very mild period cramps, and yeah, like that's really all they felt. That's all they felt like. And so I had that nurse for maybe about an hour or so. At the time in the room, it was just me, my husband, and my sister. We were talking and everything like that. I was handling the pain fine. Then I'm assuming the nurses switched shifts because I got a new nurse. Now, at the time, I knew all the nurses in the hospital because I was in and out of the hospital for the ending of my pregnancy. That's a whole nother video my daughter put me through. But I had gone to the hospital so much, I was very familiar with the nurses, but I had never met this nurse. I had never met this particular nurse. And so she came and she introduced herself, and when she looked at the machine that monitored the Pitocin, she was like, oh no, we need to bump this up because we need to jumpstart. We need these contractions to be a little bit closer together. So at that point, I was a little nervous because I'm like, okay, I thought this was gonna be, a slow process, but no. So she upped the Pitocin. I wish I knew the levels that it was. I was paying attention at the time, but I don't remember now. But I just know she upped it, and the contractions did start coming a lot closer together. Now, when they started coming a lot closer together, of course, they were a lot stronger. Now, on the other videos that I would watch just to get a feel of how labor would go, I saw women screaming. They were in so much pain. That was not my case. I think I handled my contractions very well. I was in pain. Now, I'm not gonna say that I wasn't in pain. I was in pain. They did hurt. They just felt like really, 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 really strong period cramps. That's literally all they felt like. And if you have bad period cramps, then I guess you can kind of relate to what I was feeling at the time. They were stronger than period cramps, but that's the closest what I can that's the closest thing that I can compare them to. They did start hurting a lot more than they were before, obviously, because I did not have time to recuperate after another one came sometimes. And so I remember the nurse came and she was like, well, do you want something for the pain? And I was like, I didn't want an epidural right then and there. I wasn't against the epidural. I did want the epidural. However, I didn't want it so early on because I always heard stories that try to get it as late as possible because once it runs out, that's it. And I would hear stories about, no, you have a button that you can mash and you can. I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know what was true or not. And I always forgot to ask my OB whenever I came in for an appointment. So I just wanted to wait it out. And I didn't feel like the pain was that bad at the time that I actually needed an epidural. So I ended up, they gave me this medicine called Nubain. Now, I had Nubain before because, like I said, I was in the hospital prior with my daughter and they gave me Nubain because I was in some pain. Now, what Nubain did, it does not take the pain away. It makes you sleepy. It makes you sleep so that you don't know that you're in pain. And I was a little skeptical about Nubain because when I had it before, it did make me vomit. And I was so woozy that I ended up vomiting. So she gave me the Nubain and I was irritated because I still felt the pain, but I was sleepy. So I ended up, I think I went to sleep. I'm not really sure, but I'm probably sure I went to sleep. And the nurse came and I remember she put a peanut ball in between my legs and she made me turn over to my side to help me dilate a lot more at the time. And so I remember my OB, she came in. I loved my OB. I love her so much. Oh my God. I always told her, if I ever have another child, I don't care where in the world you are, I'm coming to find you because I love that lady. So she came in and she was like, you're doing fine. You don't need the epidural. And I was like, and my mom is like, no, you're gonna need it because it's a whole different pain when you go to push. And so I was like, okay. Like, I didn't say yes and I didn't say no. I was just like, okay, we'll see. But of course, as the contractions started coming a lot closer, they started hurting a lot more. And I was like, I told the nurse, I think I want an epidural. And she's like, you think, or are you sure? And I was like, no, I'm sure. So she brought the epidural. Now, that was another misconception I had. I always heard that it hurts and you... Listen, now I'm just telling you about my experience. Everybody's experience is different. So when you get the epidural, everybody has to leave out of the room but one person, and that person is the one who's holding your hand. They have to stand in front of you to, you know, for moral support. My mom was there at the time, and my mom and my sister ended up leaving. My husband stayed inside with me, and while I got the epidural. While I was about to get the epidural, the anesthesiologist checked. She saw that I had a heart murmur, and she stopped the whole process. And she's like, I have to call your cardiologist. They called my cardiologist. They had to fax over some paperwork, and all in all, the heart murmur that I had was safe enough to get the epidural. I got the epidural, and so this is what it didn't really, I didn't really feel much. And I think that I didn't really feel a lot because I was so woozy under the Nubain. Like, I was so woozy that a lot of the experience of me being pregnant was kind of like me going through labor was kind of like washed out because I was so drowsy. Now, you do feel the needle. I did feel it. but it wasn't excruciating. I didn't jump. I wasn't nervous that I had to stay still. I just knew that I had to stay still. I held my husband's hand. I looked at him the entire time, and I didn't even know when she was finished. I did not even know when she was done. And when she came around, she checked the monitor. She's like, you just had 2 contractions. Did you feel them? And I said, no, I didn't feel anything at all. And then I did feel my bottom half started to get numb. It was almost as if I didn't have a bottom half anymore. So that was fine. And so the rest of the labor part was just waiting for me to dilate. And after that, the nurse came in, she checked me, and she said, you're about 9 centimeters. Let's see what the doctor wants. And I remember my OB, she came in and she checked me, and she's like, no, you're ready. And she told me, she was like, let's do a practice push. And I remember we did a practice push. Now, I'd never been coached on how to push. Because all of the classes that I was going to take at the hospital, they were right around the time my due date. I had my daughter November 20th. My due date was November 24th. And the classes were probably November 22nd, November 23rd. Like, they were all booked up. So I never had the opportunity to take any birthing classes or anything. And I really did want to take them, but they were all booked up. So I just I was gonna say went for what I knew, but I didn't know. I just did what I thought pushing would be like. And when I did, my daughter head was right there. And the doctor's like, no, you're ready. And she got ready, and the whole thing, it was like a movie, y'all. She stretched out her arms, and they came and they dressed her, and they dropped the bed, and I was at an angle. And they turned on these lights. It didn't scare me, but it was kind of okay, this is go time in my head. I was like, all right. And so when you get ready to push, you have to wait for a contraction. The contractions help the baby. The contractions help the baby come down as well. So with you pushing in the contraction, it's it helps a lot. So every time I had a contraction, of course I didn't know because I had the epidural, so the nurse would have to tell me. So when the contraction came, you take a deep breath and you're pushing for 10 seconds and they're counting. So my doctor and the nurses are counting, and it is exhausting. It's okay, every time I have a contraction. But no, the contractions are they're back to back to back to back. So you're holding your breath and you're pushing for 10 seconds, and then you try to get a breath, and then it's oh, another contraction. And then you try to hold your breath and you're trying to push, and it was a lot. It was a lot. And so it had got to the point where I was pushing, and my daughter would get to 4, and I would just let it go because I was exhausted. I was super exhausted. And so they kept telling me, oh, she's right there, she's right there, she's right there. And I was tired. I'm everybody keeps saying she's right here. I'm convinced she's not right there because she's not coming out. Y'all, I thought I was pushing for 2 days, and then it had only been 10 minutes. Because my OB told me, oh, we're gonna have this baby by lunchtime. I started pushing at 1:20, and I had my daughter at 1:41. I was only pushing for 20 minutes. And it felt like 20 days. So eventually, like I said, I was pushing, and finally my husband was like, no, she's right there. Come on, this is the last go. Give it all you got. And I did. And she came out, and I just remember a huge sign of relief. It's when you're pregnant and you're you're in your last trimester and you're waddling and you're out of breath, you can't breathe, and it instantly went away. Instantly. I could breathe again. And that's what I remember in that moment when she came out. I was oh my God. And on the videos that I've seen, they put something on top of you and they laid my daughter on me, blood and all. Laid her right on my gown, and I was perfectly fine with that. At that moment, like, I was just like, I was still woozy from the new vein. I was in shock that I was a mother. I was in shock that I was actually looking at my daughter. Like, so much was going through my head, and I was just like, wow. Like she was on me crying, and I'm looking at her like, wow, this is my child. Like, I have to take care of her. Like, wow, this is my child. Like, and I just remember that was going through my head. Like, I was in a state of shock. Everybody was happy and taking pictures, and I'm like, oh my God, this is my child. Like, I was just in shock. And I did skin to skin, and I remember they took my daughter and they weighed her and everything like that. And instantly I rolled over and puked. And I think it was a new bang. I rolled over and I vomited. And the only person that was by my side was my husband, because everybody was so wrapped up in the baby. And my OB was like, it's okay. Nausea is good. And I was just like, I hope so. And, you know, after that, I got stitches. Like I said in my previous video, if you guys haven't, go check that out. I talk about 6 things that are very essential for after birth if you have stitches. 6 things that will provide comfort for your stitches. I'll link that up above. So I was getting stitches, and after that was it. We stayed in the room for maybe about like an hour or 2 later. I remember my aunt came and she brought me a balloon, and she saw the baby, and then they moved us to our actual room, and we stayed for about 2 days before we were discharged. And in that time, you know, they run tests, you're filling out paperwork for a social security card, you know, just everything like that. They're monitoring you. I'll also make a video on things that they do after labor, because I know I saw a lot of videos about that. Like, people, I didn't know these things, so I feel like it will be helpful for me to share the things that you go through after you deliver. And yeah, so that was pretty much it. I had my daughter November 20th. I went in for an induction on November 20th at 4:30 a.m. and I had my daughter November 20th at 1:41 p.m. Now, everybody's different. You know, you might not have your child as fast, you might have it faster than I did, but that was just my experience. So yeah. So if you guys have any questions, you can always leave them down in the comment section. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to be more consistent on my channel and bringing you guys these videos. I have a lot of ideas of videos that I want to do. I know a lot of people like the vlogs, but we don't do anything. So if you guys want me to vlog me not doing anything, I guess I could do that too. But we literally don't do anything. My husband works and I stay with my daughter, and but you know, I have no problem vlogging our day even though we don't do anything. So yeah, so I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and bye guys.